What's going on, guys? So I am in my hotel room in Louisville, Kentucky, and I figured this would be a great time to cover rehydration, refeed leading into a show. Now, this show, I didn't cut anything. Uh, I'm, I was actually underweight. I weighed in shoes, a hoodie, sweatpants, everything, and I was 230.8. So I prefer to stay lean, but I have done big cuts. I think I did a 24-pound cut in 1 week for 90 kilo world's strongest man in 2016. I won that contest. And a big part of the reason I won that contest, not only from the person I had helping me, Mike Mastel, but was because I used the method of focusing on fluids. So we've got a hierarchy of importance when it comes to refeeding, refueling, and everything for a contest. So we've got the hierarchy of importance. Rule number one, I don't care if you're a heavyweight, if you're a lightweight, if you did a cut, if you didn't do a cut. Rule number one, fluids. Fluids are most important. And I don't mean you've got your gallon jug of water and you're going to finish that gallon jug of water. I mean, no, you've got a gallon jug of water and you're going to get that down before one, and then you're going to fill up another gallon jug and you're going to get that down before the end of the night. So fluids are priority number one. Priority number two, salt and potassium. Salt and potassium, especially if you've done a cut. You need sodium, you need potassium, you need to get your body its electrolytes and minerals back. On days like this, I would definitely take things like zinc, magnesium, boron, folate, all these things that are just going to help the body in the systems, in the biological systems within the body start, turning and burning. So and then the third thing on the hierarchy is carbohydrates. Now, notice how I didn't say food. I said carbohydrates. On days like today, before a contest, I actually focus mainly on carbohydrates. My first few meals of the day are pretty much non-existent when it comes to fats, and they are very low to moderate protein. I mean, maybe 4 to 4.5 ounces, so around the 25 to 30 gram range of protein, whereas the carbs are anywhere from 75 to 120, 150 grams of carbs with each meal, with tons of sodium and potassium. Now, the reason being is because especially after you've done a giant cut, the fluids, you need to replenish your body, you need the electrolytes, but you need glycogen more than anything. And where does glycogen come from? Yes, we can make glycogen, multiple different ways using fat, amino acids, pyruvate. We can do all that stuff, but the best, most efficient way to create glycogen is with carbohydrates. So we fill our bodies up with carbohydrates, and then we refuel our systems. We get all the glycogen back in our liver, we get all the glycogen back in our muscles, and the systems start running properly. Now, the way I would balance it is I would focus on doing carbohydrates with low to moderate protein with no fat for the first few meals. And when I'm not eating, I am drinking something. And when I am eating, I am not drinking something. I'm only drinking something like water to kind of cleanse the palate, make it moist, so that way, the food goes down a little bit easier. But when it's time to eat, it's time to eat, and people need to understand that. There's no, sitting down in a restaurant, eating your food, taking big drinks, getting a bunch of refills. Like, you're just creating a bunch of gut space, and you need to actually just focus on getting your food in, then taking in your fluids, because food's most important at that specific time. Food doesn't have the highest importance throughout the day, but food has its place throughout the day, and when it has its place, it needs to be the main star of the show. So another thing we need to focus on, let's see, we've covered fluids, we've covered electrolytes, we've covered carbohydrates and foods, and now we need to cover when to balance fats, when to balance protein, when to balance carbohydrates. So like I said before, earlier in the day, carbs, moderate protein, and low fats. And then later in the day, we'll focus on some higher protein sources, but make sure they're good proteins or good fat sources. I'm sorry, I know I said protein, but we'll focus on a little bit higher of a fat source, and make sure they're very good fat sources, very easily digestible fat sources. I don't mean pizza. I don't mean, big old bacon cheeseburgers. I don't mean, now I'm not saying you can't do that. You can absolutely do that. I just would not. The reason being is that is something that's super greasy, super heavy. It's going to those types of fats are going to sit in your gut. Fats, remember, they're low thermogenic. They take forever to get through your system. So fats are, especially those type of fats, are just going to sit in your gut like an atom bomb, and it's going to really, really, really hinder your digestion. But it's going to hinder it with shit, rather than if you focused on good sources of fats and you slowed down your digestion system the right way so you could absorb your nutrients the right way. So that's what I would do. Typical fat sources could be, healthy oils, olive oils. Red meat's a good one, lean red meat. You could do, and what I mean by lean red meat, I mean like sirloin, maybe a nice, quality ribeye or something like that. I don't mean going and getting, a 70-30 burger, because that's generally what, when you go out to eat, those burgers are. They're around like 70-30. Lamb is another good red meat, but there are tons of things you can get fat sources from. Just make sure that you're smart in the fat sources you pick. And then we keep the carbs high, because our system's been burning this fuel all day because we're eating these high thermogenic foods that are just going through our system. And we are churning and burning nonstop. So we have the space for carbs. A really good one to eat before a contest is sushi, because you're getting fats from the fish, you're getting good omega-3s, 6s, and you're getting a bunch of rice, and they have soy sauce readily available. Sushi is a fantastic nighttime pre-contest meal. Sean DeMarinis is a big fan of P.F. Chang's. Don't let him, don't tell him I told you that. But he eats that before every contest, and he wins every contest. So there might be something to it. Maybe just Asian food in general. But anyway, so the fifth thing I'm going to focus on is supplement timing. And what I mean by supplement timing is when and what am I going to take? Well, the number one thing I want to take on these pre-comp days are glucose disposal agents. I use Clinical Labs, GDA. I think it's fantastic. But another one you could use is Max Uptake. There are tons out there. Just focus on getting a GDA, and I don't actually take in a full serving every time I eat. I just take 1 to 2 pills, moderate serving, get a little berberine in there for the blood sugar control, black pepper extract, etc. Focus on nutrient partitioning, focus on getting the glycogen where it needs to go. And then after we, go to bed and do everything we need to do, the next day we wake up and we're getting ready for the contest. Well, if the contest starts at 10 or 11, you need to focus on getting at least 2 meals in before the show. And those 2 meals, again, need to be high carb, moderate protein, and moderate to high fat. And the reason I say moderate to high fat on the first meal, is because we want to slow down our digestion just a smidge, so that way we can, get everything kind of leveled out for the contest. We can get a little pre-contest bloat going on. There's nothing wrong with pre-contest bloat. Now, keep in mind, this is just what I do. And then I will try to get in 1 meal with chicken, rice, and a little bit of olive oil. Again, just a little bit of fat. I'm not saying like 14 grams of fat or anything like that. I'm saying just, like a little bit of fat. But it's something that's going to slow down, but it's going to move through my system at a moderate pace. And then I'll take in, my carb drinks and stuff like that before the contest. So, guys, I hope that this is something that you can use, you can try. But, we have to stop the epidemic of people weighing in and going to greasy spoon restaurants and wondering why they can't turn pro, wondering why they don't hit big totals in a contest, wondering why they trained for 12 weeks. Oh, I'm going to blame my coach and his programming, wondering why, this happened and that happened. Well, why don't you take a look in the mirror, take a step back and say, am I really doing everything I can do as an athlete to perform the best? Because I promise you, don't look at the world's best wrestlers. Don't look at the world's best track athletes. Don't look at the world's best anything and say, do you eat pizza in greasy spoon restaurants before you compete? They don't. Don't look at the best powerlifters. They don't. Don't look at, any major athlete that's made it to the top of their game, especially if they have a nutritionist available, will tell you, we don't eat that shit before a contest because it's not conducive to what we want to accomplish. So just remember that. Take what you want from this. I'm going to sign off for the rest of the day, and I hope everything goes well tomorrow. Thanks for keeping up with me during this ASM prep, guys. Shout out to all my sponsors, Mark Bell Slingshot, Play Again Now, Next Level Nutrition, Core Fitness Club, Iron Valley, Far Beyond Driven, everyone that's always supported me, Miguel, Nick Belowski, everyone, Max Pipa, all of my friends, thank you so much. America's Strongest Man's tomorrow. It will be streaming on the Strongman Corp Facebook page. So if you go to Strongman Corp Facebook, and they will be streaming America's Strongest Man, 105 kilo. This is actually the largest America's Strongest Man of all time. There's going to be 13 of us competing tomorrow, and it's going to be the best of the best in America without Sean DeMarinis, who is a legend. So have a great one, guys.